Hi, everyone. Um, I think my panel is in the process of joining, but welcome to Can Social Workers Make a Difference? We have a panel of young social workers who are here to talk about that. Um, my name is Taylor. I use him pronouns. I graduated from the Brown School of Social Work like a year and a half ago, I think now. I work in macro social work as a political social worker for consultancy in DC, working on digital equity initiatives. So, more importantly, though, I want to get to our panelists and have them introduce themselves. So, who wants to start?
I'm Stephanie Brody. I'm from the University of Houston, MSW.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nevo Polanski. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a MSW alum from the University of Michigan, and I'm currently working in local county government.
Hi, my name's. Oh, never mind. Okay, it's me then. Hi, my name is Miss Rodriguez Gomes. I use she, they pronouns. I go to Columbia University in New York City, and I'm currently a fellow with Chris.
And hi, everyone. My name is Devaney Howard. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also at the Columbia University School of Social Work, but I'm based in DC.
Thanks, everyone. And those introductions understate your expertise and your knowledge on this question. Can young social workers make a difference? I'm going to just start off by saying, yeah, of course we can, right? Um, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to frame it through the context of the 26th Amendment, which might sound a little weird at first, so it'll make sense as we get into it. And then we're going to give you some like explicit ways that young social workers are and can make a difference, and that you can as well. So let's start off with our discussion of the 26th Amendment. If you were unaware, if you need to do a quick Google search, the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. Um, this has had some really influential impacts on elections historically, and it raises the question how and if young folks are influencing elections. So, to the panel, my first question for you: how have you seen people your age, our age, impact the political arena? And who wants to start?
So I can start us off. And the first thing that's coming to mind for me is really looking at the ways that young people are organizing, because I think one of the best ways to impact the social and political arena is to build community and to bring people together. And a lot of that organizing is happening in online communities and through social media, especially through newer social media platforms like TikTok. And so it's really exciting to see the new ways that young social workers, young people who are not social workers, are organizing and really harnessing tools that maybe weren't built for organizing to be platforms for organizing and pushing their power in that way.
Yeah, anyone else? We should unpack social media and TikTok, of course, in a second. But does anything else come to mind for you and how you've seen people our age impact the political system?
Yeah, so I'll kind of jump off on what Neville has already said, but I think I agree. I've seen a lot of just youth and people my age using kind of the resources that we have. For example, and I think voting as social work has already been talked about today, but voting as social work has kind of, or Columbia University, for example, has kind of partnered with Voting as Social Work and created this social work votes organization. And you'll actually get to see them at the expo and talk to them more. But they're kind of working to really find where a civic engagement and social work can happen in the university sphere and like with students who are in training right now. So I think that's kind of a great example. But at the same time, like social media is playing a big role, especially with how we're in such a virtual sphere right now in COVID-19. And then also just with like on TikTok, I feel like that's a super accessible and easily use platform for even younger folks out there.
Yeah, just to piggy off of that, I think that in every generation you see young people typically on the right side of history when it comes to historically, pro or against war or just social reforms. I feel like young people have always been the champion group. And so I think it just like gives me hope for this generation because we now aren't just we're not conformed to our space-based community. We have a global community as global leaders and world leaders as social work students. So I think that the ways that we can engage and the ways that we can impact our community, whether it's space-based community, whether it's virtual online platforms or what have you, really has transcended over the years through the advancement of technology.
Yeah, that was a great example, Marissa, when you said the word global, right? So the kiddo that comes to mind is Greta Thunberg. I'll give you a little bit of her back history. Huge rock star out of Sweden, right? She held up a sign in front of the Swedish Parliament, and on the sign it said "School Strike for Climate." And she wanted climate change. She wanted climate change. And I remember seeing her, and she was using different platforms, but she just was raw, authentic. Young people were just saying it, and her slogan was blah blah blah. And when I saw it, I was so taken back. I said blah blah blah. She's gonna say blah 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 to get her point across. But you heard all these people championing, and she was going in front of it, and she gathered over 20,000 people who were holding these signs that were saying blah blah blah, and she was going down the streets and she was rhyming blah 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 blah, And I thought, what a turn to do something like that. So then I saw her again. I followed her. I watched her in 2019. She went on a panel, and she looked at the crowd and she kept saying, "How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?" And that's what I see young people doing. They're using their language, they're using their platforms, they're not always politically correct. And they'll come in your face and they'll say blah, 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 and they'll challenge you by saying, "How dare you leave me in a world like this?"
And what's so powerful is that I see so many younger people doing that. It's not just like we have these elite organizers anymore, right? It's like you can do it, I can do it. So, really quick, have you seen any downsides to younger folks being so active in terms of activism on social media like TikTok?
Well, I'll go the authenticity of it. Sometimes it's a backlash. You don't know what's true and you don't know what's not. And so you could say the most positive thing, you can go to the most positive avenue. And because it's free, we have freedom of speech. We have a lot of freedoms. We can say what we want to say, even if it's not honest. Nothing's censoring us to do that. So that can be the backlash in it, but so much more positivity than to focus on, the little hindrances of it being not always authentic. Catchy, but not authentic.
Oh,
One other thing I was thinking about is the personal backlash for younger folks who are using social media, and really anyone, but especially I would say younger individuals who haven't had as much just experience with conflict. The backlash that you can personally receive when sharing your opinions to the world can be really large, and that can lead to burnout, that can lead to negative mental health outcomes. And so I think also taking care of younger activists and younger people who are interested in advocacy and making sure that they're supported and know that just because they get a lot of loud disagreement in these very public places like social media, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong. That doesn't mean that they should stop fighting for what they believe in. And that doesn't mean that there's not other people who also agree with them and believe them.
I just want to highlight in the chat, Creechan Green, I'm sorry if I messed up your name, says young voters are the most innovative and aware of their influences and very open about expressing their needs, capacity to rally other individuals beyond intermediate circles to mobilize. I just want to echo that and just hype that up because I feel like that's kind of the point of mobilization I guess for young voters is to get people to care, because the political or the personal is political. And so it's kind of like what Stephanie's point when she said, like, how dare you leave me in a world like this, in this condition? And it's kind of like passing the torch or the baton, where it's like, okay, how can I make my world better than when we left it out from the last generation?
And oh, sorry, I think I was just going to add, and Never, you kind of said it again, but kind of it can be really easy to get lost in what's being said within like 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And so I think one of the bigger downsides that I see is kind of a lack of the space and ability to kind of grow. So you can like say something within the 60-second TikTok, and then it's just like archived in our history forever. And I think it really can discourage that open debate and discussion between people who have different opinions. Or so I think that can be both a downside, and because it also opens up conversations, can be an upside. So double-edged sword.
Right, and there's positives and negatives to it, but like we've seen in the chat here, and just a quick side note, welcome to everyone who's joining us and listening, and we want you to be active participants in this. So if you have any comments, questions, please post them in the chat. We hope to be able to call them out and just add your thoughts to the discussion. And we've seen some really good comments so far, talking about how like this generation, younger and older generations, but anyone who's considered younger, we're leaving that intentionally vague. We've seen just incredibly active in politics and culture. In like we've discussed, much of that is through social media, but also through organizing. And we've seen that in protest movements as well. So to the panel, going back to the 26th Amendment, do you think there should be a minimum voting age?
I could start. I think that in order to be a voter, you should be an informed voter. So depending on what age it is, whether it's 16, 17, or 18, is kind of like where I would cap it around that range, in my personal opinion. I feel like you have to be an informed voter. So this is like where civic education comes in, political education, student government, things like that, to equip you for the ballot. So I feel like in that aspect, we need to get students prepared in order to really come on to these topic issues.
And I think I'll say I agree with being an informed voter, and I'll look at myself and be like, am I the most informed? But I also think that it is our duty, maybe as social workers, but also as a society, to kind of empower and employ every single person with like the knowledge and understanding of how we can participate, because this system of voting was set up so that we could have decisions in what's being done to us. And it's not like it shouldn't be this elite ruling class telling us exactly how to vote or how to pay for taxes, for example, or like how to live their life. So I think the age requirement is so arbitrary in some ways. And I raised this yesterday, but for example, in like New York City, there's raise the age, which set the age to 18 for that being when you can be convicted of a felony or like tried in like the adult criminal system. And for a while there, you were having like 16, 17-year-olds being tried in full adult court. And I think if not only are you like stripping them away of kind of a chance to grow and learn from mistakes, but also they can't even make a decision about how this huge criminal legal system is impacting them, then it doesn't really make sense to me, I think. So hope that helps.
And building off of that, just the idea of what is a 16, 17-year-old criminally, legally obligated to do in that system, and the question of should there be a voting age, I honestly don't know. I would love to say here's X age that we should make, but like Devaney said, it all feels really arbitrary. And the question of civic engagement and civic understanding, a lot of people don't have that knowledge now. And so if we're requiring 16, 17-year-olds to pass some sort of certification or prove that they have civic knowledge, then I feel like that would disbar a lot of people who don't have access to that kind of education. And then the conversation around, well, why 18? There's a certain level of competency there. Someone brought up in our conversation yesterday the really good point of it is ableist to say, well, once you hit this age and you are mentally competent or you are mature enough that you can participate in the system. So in my ideal world, I feel like we would lower the voting age to 14, which is, again, very arbitrary. Why 14? Provide phenomenal civic education that goes to every single student, but that's not the world we live in. So I don't know. I like the idea of lowering the voting age. And I feel like there's a lot of hurdles with that too.
I'm the caveat. I do like the 18-year-old, and I don't want it to go lower. There's a certain sense of waiting for something that makes me excited. You know, I don't know what it is. You wait to get into college. You wait for your grades. You wait for your degree. You wait for the job, right? So there's this sense of excitement, or this sense of I made it, or this sense of graduation in a sense, right? So when you say you're going to lower it and lower it and lower it and make it more lower, I'm like, oh, that it kind of takes away that I'm ready. It's my turn type of thing, you know? So, but as far as with, if it pertains to them, secondary school, something that's happening in the school system that directly they see it, they want it. Hey, why do my floors look like this? You know, they do student council. They do voting already, right? They vote for president, they vote for vice president, they do it in their high schools. I think that that's about the level where we should start kind of incorporating it in different tiers. But there's an excitement. There's an excitement to 18. I'm excited to turn 18 because I get to do a whole list of stuff, right? And I'm excited to turn 16 because I get all these privileges that come with it, you know? So to just make it free for all and, you know, everyone can do it, I just think it would take some of that majesty, that magic away from the voting process.
I'm loving the chat that's happening in the comments, and know that like we have not decided a course forward on this. This is just to bring up the discussion and really to frame it, because regardless of our opinions on this, you still have to be 18 to vote. And so that gets us back to this larger question of young people's influence on US politics. So to the panel, how do you see younger people influencing future elections, whether that be local elections, midterms, or even the upcoming presidential election?
I could start. Well, I mean, in the last presidential election, you saw the massive use of TikTok where students were like registering to go to rallies and then didn't show up. Or like, just like how, you know, I think of the Bernie Sanders movement where it's like, it was the first time that grassroots activism was really taking a hit for people. Or you see people like AOC who, you know, used to be a waitress and now is in Congress. So it's kind of like, I feel like this movement has kind of catalyzed since like 2016 and the 2020 election. But I think in addition, like it's gives me hope for young people to get involved because of the use of technology and how it's expanded, and kind of just to know that we have this power and this agency to utilize our voices, to use our vote, and to kind of show like we choose the people in power. And if they do not represent us and our values, that we can interchange them with anyone else or any one of us. So I think like that's really powerful to see ordinary people take on these roles.
And building off of that, I think one thing you spoke to, Marissa, is the energy that a lot of young people have around engagement, political engagement, civic engagement. And for anyone who attended the panel discussion in the last hour, one thing that really stood out to me there was that we all have the skills and the knowledge to participate. And a big part of participating is just showing up. And so I think a lot of ways that young folks have gotten involved in politics and elections and at every scale is just by being present, is by showing up, is by attending the rallies, is by finding communities and creating communities, and is by putting themselves out there and pushing themselves out of their comfort zone to be in the spaces where discussions about decisions are being made, putting themselves on boards and commissions. And so I think that's one, it's just really cool to see that that feels so much more accessible to younger people, because I remember when I was 18, the idea of being an elected official or a politician just felt like something you wait to do until you're 40. And now I don't know if I want to, but I feel like I could actually run for something and win something, or at least just run for something. You don't even need to win, and be part of that process.
I think so. I'm really kind of seeing engagement on all levels of politics, if you can kind of think about it, like when you're at like your local city council, or like going to the state building in the Capitol, for example, or like engaging with AOC on Instagram. I think that's very cool. And I'm seeing, I mean, everyone's already said it, kind of just people have been doing the work and, you know, being interested, but now you can actually see who's engaging and interested and maybe has like the same kind of, or yeah, you're able to find like-minded people who are kind of fighting for the same things that you want, or maybe being introduced to different things that you haven't even heard of or hadn't really thought about it that way. So I think opening perspectives and not and being fearless and being excited and energetic to bring it to the space.
Yeah, when I think about younger people going into the political arena, I like that it was a big movie, right? Encanto, right? And you remember she went up to the door, she wiggled the one, and her magic didn't come, right? And it didn't mean that she didn't have any magic. It just means that she went to the door and it didn't come out yet. And the big part of that movie was she saw the cracks. She saw the cracks in the foundation. She saw the cracks that was happening to the house. She saw that. And that's how I think of younger people. They're energized. They went up to the door and they might not have the civil rights to remember, feminist movement to remember, or Jim Crow to remember, right? But a lot of them are energized now and they're wiggling the door and they're saying, hey, I didn't know voting rights wasn't for everybody. I didn't know we're still talking about this on the Hill. I didn't know that those type of presidents could get in office. Hey, I didn't know that these people could get in there. So now they're activated to see the cracks and they see some things that they can get into. And I feel like they're just wiggling that door. And that magic is coming and they're coming in, and no matter how they say it and how they're going to do it, whether it be social media, whether it be their verbiage, however they're going to do it, they're here to stay, and they're going to be there.
And Stephanie, like we saw in the last election that voting rates actually increased for younger people. And of course, I say that and we see all this energy and activism, and I agree, I see it too, and I feel it. And at the same time, there's still leaps and bounds that need to be made in terms of energizing and mobilizing younger people to get to the polls, to run for office, to call their elected officials. So, my question for all of y'all: how do you see social work, like at large, as a movement and as a profession? What are some opportunities we have to impact and influence younger voters as we see them impact and influence future elections?
Fire starters. I think that we can be that little fire start. The fire's already starting, right? So as social workers, all we have to do is just put the little paper there and watch it blow up, right? So I feel like all we have to do is just guide them. You know, they're on fire, they're protesting, they're in the streets, they're on social media, they're talking about it. You can't blink for 2 seconds without seeing them, right? So I think as social workers, that's what you can do. That's your job. That's what we're here for. We're going to empower you to take it to the next level, right? And we're going to empower you for self-efficacy, not only show you what to do, allow you to do it. And then once you start doing it, you'll be teaching one to do one, right? And so I think that it's the same as when we were doing other things, you know, other things that were coming. We were providing housing. We were showing resources for this. This is the new thing. This is the new thing. They're excited. They want to know where to go. Guide them there and let them burn.
Spark up. Yeah, just kind of to Stephanie's point in the panel yesterday. I remember you brought up saying that when COVID happened, the world stopped, and how like people really got to see, wow, this is a lived experience of people who systemically, racially have been unjust, or if you want to go with the isms like sexism, racism, ableism, what have you, like there's a systemic issue, and that young people are going to be affected by the systemic issue that has inequalities and have marginalized a lot of us, and so I feel like in the profession of social work we have learned, like it's the lived experience, it's the personal, it's the political, social, economic realms, all these factors, environment, they impact our lived experiences from the individual level. It's like, okay, if I have a lived experience, who has a similar story? What is our collective experience together? And how can we facilitate, or how can we use our personal story, back up with research and data and experiences or lived experiences, and make policies that are more equitable and fair, that were never designed for us to begin with from the start of this country. So I think that as a social worker, my role is to be their coach, is to be their mentor, is to guide them in that process, to let them know, okay, you have this issue. This is a point person for your elective official. Okay, you have this petition. What do you do next? Instead of just showing up for rallies, how do you really organize as community organizers and take it to the next level? And some of them, that will be fulfilling an office and a role, but other people, it's doing the groundwork. And I went to the panel just before this, or our speaker before this showed us like 5 ways to get involved politically. So it's kind of like, which one of those 5 ways politically do you want to take on? You know?
And building off that too, I think Marissa and Stephanie, what you're both really capitalizing on is that as social workers, we can help start the fire because we have a strong understanding of systems and structures, but also a strong understanding of how to work effectively with people. And so whether we're macro or micro social workers, we are working in communities, we are working with individuals, and using our knowledge and our positionality and what power we have within the systems that we're a part of to share that power, to invite people in and let them know that, exactly like Marissa was saying, here are the ways you can get involved, here are the next steps. And I think also explaining how important that is, because I think as social workers, we often take for granted how we understand the political system and politics, and really motivating and re-enfranchising people who have been, I guess not re-enfranchising, that's a different kind of term, but what am I thinking? People have been disillusioned, helping them realize that this is how we can impact the system, even if it's not on a federal or national scale. We all have a lot of power within our states, within our local municipalities, and then that is a way to make our voices heard and to help make decisions that actually benefit us.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add, because everyone's already kind of said it, like really utilizing those communication and interpersonal relationship develop. So, sorry, as social workers, like we have the skills to really communicate across different like stakeholders and to build those interpersonal relationships. But I guess like right now is, for example, I'm in the program, and I think something like we as social workers in training can kind of utilize is maybe looking to our field placements and seeing how there's like a way to kind of work with the population at that field placement, or like who you're already working with, to see kind of what their interests are, if this is what interests you, and getting them engaged back or into civic and political issues, or like really working to see what kind of resources your agency is already working in. So
let's unpack that last part a little bit more, because when I asked this question, how can we impact young folks. I see all of us doing that. All of you on this panel, you're doing that through your career, through your field placements, through your education. Um, you understand the political process, you understand policy and administration, and you're impacting all of that, right? So I think many in our audience want to know more about you, how you're doing that specifically. I'm gonna have a like a compound question. So I want you to talk about how you're doing that, but also I want to give our audience, especially the students in the audience, ideas, opportunities to do this. Whether you're um, studying micro or macro social work, what are some ways that today you can get involved in influencing society and the political system? So, who wants to start? Let's start with your experience, and we'll bridge out to what are some opportunities for our audience to do the same thing.
I'll
Go
start.
for it, Stephanie.
Okay, here we go. The way that I'm doing it, I just really believe people help people, right? So it doesn't matter what arena I'm in or where I'm going. I'm speaking. My voice is my main thing that, the first point of contact that I use. So when I'm talking to people, I just talk from an empathetic mind. I don't have to understand everything that you're saying and what your political vision is or what your advocacy effort is, but I'm here to be present and I'm here to communicate with you and let you be heard. So that's how I start. I'm in a lot of different arenas and I try not to be in one specific because I want to hear what's happening. I want to hear what your concerns are. And a lot of people have a lot of things in their head that they might want to say, but they can't get it out. So I just feel like that's what I do to use as far as speaking for those who might not want to speak, who might want to write it down, who might want to be, more of a visual type of learner. So I do that on my side, and I'm at the University of Houston. I literally harassed the person who wrote that book on social workers in the political field, and I found Suzanne, and that's the reason why I'm there, right? And I knocked down her door, to make sure that she knew me, I knew her. I wanted to know the people that she knew, right? So people help people. That's how we're starting this thing. I don't know all the answers. I don't have the perfect template or blueprint, but someone's did it before me, someone's doing it after me, and somebody's walking alongside me. So I think that those are the things that I do as far as in the fields that I'm doing or the platforms that I'm using is I'm one, listening to what people are talking about, trying to continue to learn competency about what is happening around me, right? Just being present in my environment. Two, finding the right people, finding the right mentors, asking questions, letting my vision come to them. And if they don't know it, most times they will redirect you to someone else. People like to teach. People like to teach. So when you speak and you say what you want, they will teach you because they like to teach. So that's how it kind of evolves itself. That's what I do. So that's what I would suggest doing. Talk, speak, get out there, find a mentor, find someone to talk to, and refine your vision.
I think those are all really great points, especially finding a mentor. Most of the places I am in now are because of the people who have taught me and helped me along the way. And so some of the places I'm in now are I came to social work to focus on policy because I wanted to help people, like the big broad thing that I think brings a lot of us in. But I felt that there was a lot of systemic change that needed to happen to help people in the way that I wanted to. And so I tried to learn what are ways that I can influence systems. And honestly, getting really involved in things scares me and is really daunting. And so I wanted to be as helpful as I could without being as involved as I could, which is a hard balance to balance. And so I looked at really local things. I was not interested in federal. I was not interested in state. I did not want my name to be out there, but I wanted to help. And so I joined two boards in my county. So a lot of municipalities, counties, towns, cities will have local commissions and boards that are actively recruiting members. You apply, if you go to a city council meeting, you can hear them read your name out if you get selected. And so I'm on two boards, both focused on policing and police policy in my county and in my city. And so that's one way that I actively engage in the political system and also bring other people to engage, because now I have new information that I would have never had before, that I can share with my peers, that I can share with my community members, and it's actually somewhat my responsibility too. So that is one way that I get involved. And also, I got really involved in student government in my MSW program. And I know that's not the same as getting involved in local or any other level of politics, but every organization that we're a part of has policies and has procedures. And even if you are working for an organization, you can get involved in trying to change the policies and procedures that you don't feel match the values of the organization, match the values that you have. And so I think that's another really valuable way to put yourself out there, especially if you are not looking to get incredibly involved. And I'll also say, the more I have done, the more comfortable I've felt getting more and more involved. So most recently, I've started working on a campaign for a local candidate who's running for city council. And that has been a really rewarding and fun experience. And it's very low key. It's like a team of 3 of us, and it's a really, really good space. And we just strategize, think through policy, think through events, and use all the different social work skills that we build in the programs we're in.
I can go next. Yeah, so I guess my background, I have my bachelor's in community development. So I've always been really fond of the space-based communities. And during my undergrad, I got a fellowship. So one thing I would encourage you all is like to apply for fellowships, summer internships, volunteer positions, even though they're unpaid. Try to find the ones you're paid for because your work is worth it. But I was a part of Selena Rudy Salz's on UC Center Sacramento when I went to UC Davis in California. And so that's kind of where I started getting my political feet wet. And then afterwards worked in nonprofit for a little bit for 2 years. After working in nonprofit for anti-poverty efforts, it was basically a social work position. I attended master's in social work at Columbia. And so from there, I got part of the student union. I'm a part of the student union for Columbia University. I also started just campaigning and really got into political social work and education social work specifically. So I used to work with ACLU or New York State ACLU with the campus organizers. So I would work with college students, undergrads, to help advocate what are the civil rights, civil liberties on their campus, if they've been violated, know your rights workshops, things like that. And they also have a pipeline for that. So they also had the TAP students that would be the K through 12 or middle school, high school students that would also know their rights, such as environmental justice issues like water and lead in the pipes or lead in the water at schools, or advocating for like comprehensive sex education bill, or no policing in schools, metal detectors, things like that. So I really started getting involved in my field work, educating the next generation of how to be political. And so I think it's just looking for fellowships, looking for resources like that really has helped me personally. So I think it's finding mentors, finding programs, finding things you're interested with. And networking is really huge. Like we literally have a networking button here at this organization. And I already networked with someone and we exchanged LinkedIn's this morning. So I would really encourage you all to network with each other because we are the future of political social work and social workers. And we're like 200 of us. So imagine if we all exchanged LinkedIn's, how powerful we would all become. I mean, just like networking, saying, hey, can I have an informational interview with you for 15 minutes? I want to just learn how you got in your position, and I've done that with people. Or just ask, hey, do you have any fellowships or volunteer opportunities? I'm really interested in your research. I'm really interested in this bill. I'm really interested in getting this passed. Like that's the ways you communicate with people to help advocate and get your questions and points across.
Yeah, networking and communication are so important. I think going back to what Stephanie said, something that I've been got into last year, I was in social work votes. And so, we really trying to rally people around the election. And something that we did was deep canvassing. And so it was kind of interesting because, we're in this pandemic, there's this super important election happening, and we're really pushing for just like outcomes that benefit like us as people. And so I think with that, deep canvassing kind of taught me, or it was a really interesting way to use my motivational interviewing skills that I had learned from a social work program. But it's kind of like, we might on the surface of things have very divisive or contrarian like ideas, but at the very root of the issue, there is a root issue where you can kind of see like, this might be the issue that we're kind of trying to suss out. And so, for example, in my field last year, I was at the Legal Aid Society, and I was advocating on behalf of families and youth for special education services in the like schools. And you can kind of maybe view it as like us, the legal team, fighting against the school, but at the same time, we're all fighting for the same thing, and that's to get what this child needs. And so that's kind of a way moving forward that I like to use. But then I guess I really like the points that everyone's been bringing up about mentors and like using like the professors you have at school. Like, for example, I'm in a macroeconomics class, and that's super, it's just such a subject that I'm not used to, but it's like these teachers can have so much expertise and so many other like connections that they just really want you to learn and be the social workers that you came to these schools to be, for example. And so losing my train of thought, but I also wanted to say that mentoring and having connections is really important in school, but also if you're interested in the federal government. And like, I feel like a lot of the times I'm like, oh, I'm studying social work with people who are in the federal government. And they're like, once I explain that, I think that because social workers can really be a bridge between these like super complex systems and like just people who, don't have the time or money to study this. And that's why I want to be in the federal government. They're like, that makes so much sense. But it's like, one, social workers can be in every sphere, and they are. You just maybe don't hear about it. And then two, in the federal government, everyone is trying to teach you as well. They're trying to, like, if I work at the Office of Management and Budget for my internship, and right now I'm like healthcare issues, but I'll say like, oh, I've been interested in child welfare. There 6 different people are like, I have a friend in this office and this office and this office. Like, let me hook you up with them. So don't be afraid to be curious about different things, but also to like go for what you're most interested in, because there is going to be and already is a place for you, I think. And if there isn't, you can build it from what is already there.
Excellent. In the main question of this whole panel, can young social workers make a difference? I'm still the same opinion, resounding yes. And like I think that's evidenced by all of you and everything you talked about. So like my next question is like, how are you making a difference? What are some of the like tangible things you're doing, and what are some of the social work skills that you're using to do those things? I ask that because we may in our audience have micro social workers, we have macro social workers, but what are some of the skills? Definitely, you mentioned like motivational interviewing. Like, how are you having an impact? Who wants to start?
Well, I can go. How do I impact? I think I'm a walking verb. A verb is an action. So as soon as I hear something, here I go. It doesn't matter person, place, or thing. I'm action, and that's my impact. It's in different arenas. What am I doing right now? Community complaining about speed cushions. People are driving too fast. Okay, let's act on it. Let's get together. Let's petition. Do you know who you're supposed to talk to? The other one, the Crown Act was part of that here. I want to wear my hair the way I want to wear my hair. Okay, good. You gave me the noun. I'm going to give you the verb. I'm going to give you the action that you can do to put that, in place. What is another one? I'm always in something. The next one, people are mad in Houston about asthma. Why are you not recording asthma? I love the nouns. I love noun people that give the problem, that give the issue. And I'm just a walking verb. I'm going to try to link you with who I don't know. If I can't answer the question, I'm going to try to partner up and find out if there's some new information that I can get, or I'm going to at least give you the information that I know and try to direct you in the right place. So that's what I do. It doesn't matter the platform. You give it to me, and I'm going to try to find the action for it.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll kind of answer that motivational interviewing question because I think that's interesting to think about. I think the roles that I've had are very different. And so last year, in kind of more of a clinical sphere, I was really using it kind of to do client interviews and really get to the core of like what they were interested in or what they were telling me they needed. And then here in kind of more of like a political sphere, it can look a lot different. And that kind of just means like having the skills to really negotiate between like what we as I like as the administration can really give for like the different departments. And I had another thought, but I think I lost it. So, well, yeah, sorry.
Nevo, you want to go first? No? Okay. Okay, I got it. All right. So, working with ACLU, my job, and I've worked in a lot of educational spaces. So I work at YMCA now still with the Work, Learn, Grow program with high school students. I've worked with undergraduate admissions. I worked with a lot of different after school programs. And my mentality has always been I'm the coach, you're my superstar player, we're going to tell your super qualities, whatever. But my job at the end of the day is to make sure I don't have a job. As a social worker, my job is to make sure I don't have a job at the end of the day because I want you to have all the skills and the values of self-advocacy, of agency, and things like that. So that's always in my mentality is like, I'm the coach and you're my superstar player. Or like, how can we do this together? And I think about ORs, like for motivational skills, like open-ended questions, reflections, summaries, and transitional statements. Like, how are you engaging with that person? How are you taking a strength-based approach to them? How are you really being empathetic and compassionate when someone has these issues, these lived experiences? Like, I think of the oil crisis spill in Chevron in San Francisco, where a huge community in the low-income area had an oil spill, and a lot of them had like environmental toxins and waste and things, which is tied into racial and ethnic issues. So it's like if you have a lived experience of an oil spill that's causing a public health issue from this big corporation that doesn't want to have any reparations with you, how are you together having those discussions, or even taking a strength-based approach, or having I can't remember the name of that, but knowing like having a discussion and having a community that says, okay, who is for you, who is against you, who is for that bill, or strategically utilizing your power and your collective organizing or organizational skills and mindsets to truly move the ball in your direction, or to move the ball where you have more of an equitable outcome.
So I'll just add that bringing all these skills, I agree, everything that everyone is saying is so spot on, and it's really important for us to bring these skills to the spaces we're a part of, especially in spaces where we're the only social worker, or they've never had a social worker, or we're one of a few social workers. I'm thinking of one of the boards I'm on, and just in general, a lot of policy discussions are around cost. How much does this program cost? How much will we save if we change this? And the thing that isn't a part of the cost discussion is how will this cost actually impact real people? And so bringing the perspective of a social worker, which after a while becomes so second nature to us that at least speaking for myself, I forget that other people aren't thinking about it. But that isn't actually discussed in the room unless someone brings it up. So asking the question of, okay, we're going to reduce costs, but will this actually create better outcomes for the individuals we're serving? Because otherwise, the reduction in costs, I would argue, is really against the point if we're doing human service programming. So bringing all these skills to campaigns, to boards, to commissions, to spaces that don't normally have them is so valuable, and is one really important way that we can use everything we're learning in our programs to advocate.
Yeah, and that reminded me of the point that I totally just left my mind. But I mean, along with the budget, it can be super disconnecting to think about, like, for example, a $10 billion program, and you can like take 5 billion away from that, but then how many people are losing like healthcare benefits at that point? And like, what does that mean for long-term health in the future and for generations to come, kind of thing? And what kind of precedent can that set for the government if we're working within the system? And I feel like immediately that's still going to be set up. And so that's something that I think social workers really need to be in, these kind of political spheres. But at the same time, like, I definitely think like you can do work now and today. You can call your representative, you can work in like organizations to like write to different and advocate in different ways. You can kind of find who you can call to impact this policy that you want to, go through. And I think something that I've learned is that persistence is super important, both as a social worker and working with like clients on a weekly or daily basis or something, but also within policy. Because like you may, through persistence or generally with policy, you're not going to get like a huge policy change implemented in one go. It takes time and energy. And so the more that you can show that this bill has been like proposed for like 10 consecutive years is a lot more showing than like, oh, we just introduced this bill, unfortunately. So just kind of having a really strong mental fortitude is helpful.
As we wrap up, we're near to the hour, and for everyone who's watching, if you want to post a comment or question in the comment section that you would like us to discuss, now is the time to do it. But for our panel, as we wrap up, we've talked about broadly about younger people, and our influence on society and politics, and we talked about our role as social workers and young social workers, and the opportunities we have to advocate and to influence all these systems, society and politics at large. So, like, as we close, my question for all of you is, what impact do you see social work, specifically younger social workers, having on society at large and on our political system at large?
So the first thing that's coming to mind for me is really being a bridge between other individuals, young and old, who have the same energy but don't have the same experience, don't have the same time and resources to focus on systems and structures, and using our positionality and our privilege as people who have studied this to really facilitate in a way that is promoting the communities we're trying to uplift, in a way that is not acting as saviors for everyone else. I don't think social work is a field that can claim we will save democracy, we will save XYZ thing, but we can really be a big part of the organization of working towards the change we want to see with the unique skills we're developing in our programs. And not everyone has those skills. And it's not just being able to talk to people, it's thinking about systems, it's thinking about structures, it's understanding root causes and helping other people think about those things as well as organizers and as advocates.
Yeah, I really just think that young social workers are the future, as cliche as that sounds. I just, like you were saying, they can be the bridge, and they are the bridge between the different systems and like people we're working with. But also, I think they kind of represent, or I'm seeing this like unabashed kind of um, willingness to fight for what they like, fight against the injustices they see. And I think this includes all of us here today too, and like what we are believing in. We're not really being tied down by different systems, or at least we're trying to fight and see how that can change and why that needs to change too. So I definitely think that, especially with this kind of panel, or not just panel, this kind of event, it can be really important to bring people together. And, you know, I guess we've already just said it, so I'm just kind of going in a circle.
Can you remind me of the final remarks we're supposed to make?
Well, you can make the final remarks in whatever way you would like about whatever you'd like. But I was asking broadly, how do you see social work, specifically younger social workers, having an impact or an influence on society at large, on future elections and the U.S. political system?
Oh, I see us as trailblazers. Like, we have the TikTok, we have social media, we have the mass numbers. We're just gonna take over everything. Which could be scary, but I think in the right direction with coaching and guidance from social workers, that we are the next generation. We are the future, not the future of democracy, but democracy is very sensitive, very fragile. And I think we've seen in this last administration, there needs to be more of us with compassion and with empathy, to really infiltrate this field so we can reflect the values needed for people like us. And this starts from not just, getting involved politically when you're 18 voting, but also at a younger age. So civic education, political education, like teaching young people how to vote, what's on the ballot, how do you organize, grassroots organizing. Like, this is our moment, I would say.
I think the impact that young social workers have is they move quicker. They move quicker. They think quicker. TikTok, there was a time commercials, 3 minutes, we'd sit there and watch it. We would try to figure it out. Now, the younger population, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, they've got it. They've comprehended it. They're moving on to the next thing, right? So one, their huge impact on society is they move faster than most of society. Right? They retain information quicker. They can get things on a global note. They can cross-check and reference you very much so quicker than anywhere else, right? Is this younger population. In the political arena, you better say what you mean, because they'll follow you. So if you say something on the campaign, they will follow you. It's very easy for them to follow you, and they'll watch you, and they'll tag you, and they'll say what you did wrong, and they'll say what you did right. Right. So in both of those arenas, I think what the younger social workers do is hold the world accountable. They hold the world accountable. What you say, you better mean, and you better mean it, and you better say it fast, because I'm young and I'm faster than you, and I'm going to remember quicker than you. So those are the two huge impacts. One, make sure you're doing what you said you were going to do. And two, I'm going to say it and fact check it before you get off the stage.
Excellent. We have a few minutes left. Does anyone have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I just want to address quickly one question in the chat by Shannon Thurman, where to look for places to be in a space, in a room, that you are the only social worker, you're able to influence ideas in that way. I think it really ranges. You could look to local politics. So if you were in the panel last session, Justin Hodge is the county commissioner for the county I live in, Washtenaw County, and he has field students. You could try to start a field placement with a similar person, or a state rep, state official, something like that, or even just working in a human service organization that has internal policies, internal procedures, but maybe doesn't have very many social workers. or also looking to work for your municipality. I know, and I'm really lucky, Ann Arbor has a ton of government positions, both at the county and city level. But seeing if your county or city has positions or spaces for you to be able to contribute.
We are out of time. I'm so sorry to cut anyone off who's about to speak. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to everyone who joined and listened to us. And you can find a recording for this if you need it. Can young social workers make a difference? A resounding yes. You are the difference. We are the difference. Go be it. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Can we give our panel a wonderful virtual applause? I was going to say a round of applause, but thank you so much. Thank you so much to each and every one of you, Justin, Neville, Larissa, Stephanie, Devaney. I think I have everybody who was there. Thank you so much for that incredible panel. Well, as promised, I said that we have a surprise for you. Well, guess what? We have a surprise. We could not do this event without adding something just a little bit special, and also somewhat of a reflection of our founder and our director of the Congressional Research Institute for Social Work and Policy, Dr. Charles D. Lewis Jr., a lover of music, diverse genres of music. And so we have brought in Mr. Caesar George, our DJ for today. Can we bring him on the main stage? What's going on, my man? We are so excited to have you today. He's going to be playing the tunes. So on the main stage between now and the end of the day, you can stop by, get on the virtual dance floor. And we do have the opportunity to kind of see you get your move on. So you never know. We may snatch your live feed, throw you up on there. You never know. But I just want you to enjoy the music, continue to enjoy your sessions. And it's going to be an amazing time the rest of the day. We have a couple more sessions left, so I don't want to hold you. Get going. Have a wonderful time. If you need us, you can reach us in the chat. If you need any assistance, don't forget to fill out the poll that talks about what's happening today, and you can give us feedback on that. And lastly, but most importantly, I love what Marissa said, and I was trying to get in that stage chat really fast, but I couldn't get in there fast enough. Networking starts now. I love that she said that networking starts now. And so you have real life examples right in front of you. Nebo, for example, and Taylor Brown actually in their profession doing the things that they're passionate about. So networking is a key component to a lot of your success. So click that network button. You guys accept each other's requests, exchange information, LinkedIn and Instagram and whatever platform you like to communicate on, and get the networking going. Thank you so much. Again, get over to your sessions. We'll see you in a little bit.